Welcome to Diversity Matters. This program is designed to highlight activities throughout New Hanover County schools and the greater Wilmington region that celebrates diversity and embrace inclusion. Diversity Matters has long been a staple at New Hanover County Schools TV, allowing us to celebrate, educate, and support the diverse community we live in. The district has taken a strong stance against racism, and our educators have been working intensively to create a more equitable environment. In today's segment, we will be introducing Director of Special Education and Related Services, Dr. Allison Jones, to discuss her vision and aspirations for special education in the district. We will also be joined today by Sean Lamb, a parent of a special education son, on her interactions with special education services in the district and the benefits of inclusive teaching. First up, Dr. Jones, when we return.
Women's Heart is in a race to save lives. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. It's 80% preventable if you know the facts. Millions of women are living with or at risk of different types of heart disease, like AFib, which is a type of irregular heartbeat. It affects both women and men, but women with AFib have a higher risk of stroke and death than men. Get educated. See your doctor. Know the facts. Diet and exercise are key to staying healthy. Know the risks. Women's Heart does something really unique, solely focusing on women and providing peer-to-peer support. To win this race, we all have to do it together. Our hearts beat as one. To learn more, visit womenheart.org.
Welcome back to Diversity Matters. I'm Caress Clegg, and joining me is Dr. Jones, the new Special Education and Related Services Director for New Hanover County Schools. Welcome, Dr. Jones, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
So you want to start just by telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So I grew up in New York City. Not a lot of people know that, but spent most of my time in Maryland. And then from there, I got my bachelor's, my master's, and my PhD in special education with an emphasis in secondary transition, and started my teaching career as a high school special ed teacher, and then went on to provide technical assistance on different special education topics across the country, and then went on to be a professor in special ed for 13 years.
Oh, awesome. So you've been around the block a time or two and have great experience in the field.
Yeah,
Good.
it's special ed is all I know, and it's my passion, and it's just what I love to do.
Okay. So what drew you and made you apply for the Special Education Director position for New Hanover County Schools?
Sure. So it's two things. One, leadership. It's always kind of been in my soul, but I really wasn't. Long time ago in my career, I just didn't feel like I was ready. But I took a long, hard look at my foundation and my skill set and felt like it was time. And, so I was excited for this opportunity to, for the EC director position in New Hanover County. I knew a lot of the teachers because they were some of my former students. And so it was that leadership opportunity, and then the fact that I could make that direct impact. Because as a professor, you have your students in your class, they graduate, and then you may not see them anymore. But then in this position, I could see the full circle impact. So I was just in a class yesterday at Ashley High School, and saw one of my former students in her class, and teaching on Zoom, and it was heartwarming, and it was a blessing to be able to see that full circle, but then also to make that direct impact on students and teachers. And that's what, I have loved it since day one, and I'm so excited.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear, and we are glad to have you here with the district.
Thank you.
So you just started, was it in October?
First week of October.
First week of October. So you're starting here with special education in the middle of the pandemic and coronavirus 2020. What has been some of the challenges that you have seen while starting this position in the midst of the pandemic?
So obviously, just like the rest of the country, I mean, a lot of fear, parents are worried, and I understand that as a parent myself. And thinking about this, in being in a leadership position in a school setting, safety is always important, but ensuring the safety of our students, and not just students with disabilities, but all of our students during a pandemic, I mean, is on a totally different level. So that's been probably the biggest challenge. And then ensuring that, and ensuring the comfort level of our students and our teachers, but then also making sure we're teaching effectively and we're not getting off course and we're staying the course when it comes to that. And that's probably been the biggest challenge. But we've been doing well, so far.
So talking about the pandemic, we're now, the board just decided to transition into Plan A with the spring semester for elementary kids, pre-K and elementary kids only. Middle and high school will still resume in Plan B.
Right.
What are the options and the learning options, instructional, whether it be remote or face-to-face options for our special education population who may have IEPs or 504s?
So the two options are going to be the same that they would be for our gen ed population. It's going to be face-to-face or remote. And so what's important for the EC population is, regardless of whichever option they're choosing, that we are making sure that we are fulfilling their IEP goals and objectives, and that we're meeting their educational needs, no matter what, whether it's, they choose face-to-face or remote.
Okay. Is there any extra or additional support that the special education department will be providing for families who are doing only remote, or for those students who aren't in school on Wednesdays?
So, and I think I might have mentioned this before, each school has their own EC liaison. And we, some teachers in some schools use their liaisons effectively, or, lean on them more than others. And I think that this is probably one of those times where we really need to lean on our supports, and one being our liaisons that are provided in the schools. So they are a very strong set of liaisons, and they're really good at kind of thinking of and collaborating on possible solutions to problems that may exist in remote work and how to deliver instruction. So that's one of the things that I would suggest that our schools and our families lean on, in addition to myself. Like, if they ever need me for anything, they know where to find me.
So I know you've only been here about 2 months, but there's still a lot happens in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
So are there any success stories that you could share, whether they're individual, with students, or with teachers, regarding special education that we've seen during the pandemic?
Yeah. So one of the things that, and we didn't, obviously, none of us planned for this, and I think sometimes it gets overlooked that, wearing a mask, I mean, it's obviously not normal. But especially for our kids with disabilities, it's a new normal, and it's something that has to be taught. And so I feel like the success that I've seen just in the 2 months is the resiliency that from our parents and our kids, in just trying to create this new normal, in a world that is just going to keep going no matter what. And so, I've seen a lot of success in that, where, getting over this mask hurdle really has not stunted, their growth as far as their educational performance is concerned. And that's been a really, a great thing to see, even as difficult as it's been.
Yeah, and that goes not just for our special education population, but for our general population and teachers as well. I remember I was talking to Ms. Gibson, Chief Communications Officer, about when the pandemic first started. I would be out in the store and I'd have a mask on, but it wouldn't be over my nose.
Right.
So trying to get myself to realize, hey, you're not doing anything if you're not properly wearing that mask, if it's not covering your nose, covering your mouth, and securely on your face. So me as an adult struggling with that, so I can imagine that has been a challenge for many of our students across the district.
Yeah, and it's, and I just commend the families for sticking with us and being supportive. And, we had to work through a lot of kinks, and that was, just in the last 2 months that I've been in this position. But they they really have, been very flexible with us, and, we've got a long ways to go, but I feel like we're doing well.
Yeah. So we were talking about families. You mentioned families. If a family has a concern or they have an issue regarding their student or they have questions, what are the proper procedures families should take when communicating that, and who should they go to as far as communicating issues?
So they should first go to their EC chair in their school. And then from there, go to their IEP team. The chair will tell them, if they're not familiar with their team, they can tell them who's on their team. It could be the school psychologist, it could be the school counselor, and then, seeing if problems can be worked out within the IEP team. And sometimes our liaisons are a big part of those teams. And then, it's a collaborative effort and a problem-solving effort. And so, usually those two channels can kind of help with, circumventing any problems. And so really the EC chair and then the IEP team.
Gotcha. So they should school level first should always be where they go for their initial contacts.
Correct.
And try to
Correct.
solve anything they have at that school level.
Correct. But our student support office and my team, we're always there in the event that possibly that doesn't work out. But yeah, that's the first line of communication.
So the district has been working on recognizing our teachers, our special education teachers particularly. So I know each month, and I want to get this right, we have the Advisory Council for Exceptional Services Awards, where we honor a special education teacher for their work in the classroom and with their students. Why is that such an important award, not to have just now in the midst during the pandemic, but all the time, to recognize our special educators?
Yeah, they're on the front lines. There are heroes every day, and they deal with so much. Sometimes they're school nurses, they're school counselors, they're teachers, all wrapped up in one. And I think sometimes it's hard, at the end of the day, for them to shut off their lives, or their teacher lives, and, roll into their normal, typical lives. And so, we really need to recognize them publicly for everything they do, so that they do feel appreciated and they want to stay with us. Teacher retention is a big, it's a problem. But I will do everything I possibly can to keep our teachers in this district, because they're important to us. So acknowledging them in this public way is a great way to boost the morale and, help them understand that we really appreciate them.
Well, that's good. Any chance we can to celebrate our educators is always going to be a positive.
Yes.
So I commend all of our special education teachers. You as well. Welcome to the district.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. We look forward to seeing your vision and your aspirations for the department come to fruition. And thank you again for joining us today.
As farmers and ranchers, stewardship of the land comes naturally. You leave it better than you found it, so future generations can enjoy a way of life that you love. Thanks to your efforts, we're fortunate to experience clean water, abundant wildlife, and healthy rural communities. Your work is vital, and its benefits extend far beyond your property, reaching millions of other Americans who depend on this region every day without even realizing it. You take care of the land because it's the right thing to do. But did you know that conservation can also improve your bottom line? Take a moment and find out how conservation pays. Visit conservationpays.org.
We are back with Diversity Matters, and with us now we have Shawn Lamb. You might remember that Ms. Lamb joined us back in March for our Women in STEM episode. She wears many hats within our community. Thank you, Shawn, for being with us today. So if you could just start off telling us a little bit about yourself and your involvement within our community.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, in March when I came, we talked a lot about STEM because I am an engineer by trade. The most important role I have is mother. So I have 3 children. And the oldest is almost 9 now, and he has special needs. And so, you know, because of his unique needs, I've been called to many different committees. And right now I'm a member of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee for New Hanover County Schools, which I love. It's such a great, eye-opening experience, and I learn so much.
One of my favorite committees to be on, hands down.
It's amazing. I'm also a member of the Advisory Council for Exceptional Services Committee, and that is a committee where stakeholders and parents work with the school administration to just examine all the things in special education that are going on, and what support we can give each other. And most recently, I became a member of the Communities and Schools Board as well. So another way to support, you know, the community and our school community as well. So. And
not to call you out, but you recently were you elected something for Wilma, or?
Oh yeah. I was nominated for the Women in Business Award for the Women to Watch, which was a really great experience. I did not win, but I was in a field of just amazing women. It was a great experience for me. I think that was back in August.
Yep. And just to be honored and nominated is a big deal, because there's a lot of great women in our Wilmington area.
Exactly.
So congratulations again for that nomination. Thank you. So back to your role and where it relates to special education. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience with the district in regards to special education and your son? Yeah, absolutely. It's been varied, right? I mean, right now we're in a fantastic experience, right? Situation right now. He's in 2nd grade. He's been at the same school for 3 years now, and he's thriving. Very good relationships with both his teachers and his peers. It took some work to get there. You know, his first year of kindergarten was a little jarring for us to be entering the system. And I would say our vision wasn't as aligned maybe with the school district's vision at the very beginning. So yeah, I think I've got a good perspective from both ends of the spectrum, right? And so back in October, the Family Communications Committee, we hosted a roundtable for our special education parents. And I noticed that you attended via Zoom with that and had a lot of feedback. So can you just tell us a little bit about that and what you felt about the roundtable discussion? Yeah, that was a great forum. I really liked that event and that forum, because it was such a transparent, honest way to get and give real-time feedback to each other about our needs and our visions and some of the challenges that we're all trying to work through. So I really enjoyed that. I thought there was great engagement from leadership and administration. That was a fantastic event. Okay. And I know you talked about challenges. We asked all of our families there to talk about some of their challenges that they experienced. And I remember hearing a lot of different input from parents, moms, dads, grandparents even. What are some of the challenges that you have faced? The biggest challenge that I think my family and I have experienced is, you know, we came in with a vision for our son to be included as much as possible in the general education environment. And the structure and the system isn't always set up for that. We started out in his first year of kindergarten, he was 100% included in his neighborhood school, and we thought, okay, this is going to be great. And it didn't go so well. And that was a painful process for us to work through. But like I said, I think that, you know, he's so well situated now, and working through that process has given us a lot of insight on how special education works, the goals of special education. You know, our goals as parents are still definitely committed to as much inclusion as possible. And if that doesn't look like 100% inclusion, you know, we can be flexible with that. But it can feel like a negotiation sometimes, right? It's a negotiation on his needs and his priorities for the number of minutes that and what we want to learn with them. And so that's probably what our biggest challenge has been. Now, different parents might have different goals than what we do, but that's our own kind of vision for Henry and his future. Okay. And so you're talking about inclusion, and I know at the EDI committee, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Board Committee, that we're both on, and in the November or late October meeting, you presented on inclusive learning. Talk to me a little bit about inclusive learning, the conference workshop you attended, and what you got from that, and what of that you hope to bring back to how Henry's education is done.
Absolutely. Yeah, so every year for the past 4 years or so, I've been going to the National Down Syndrome Conference. And that is a great conference on presenting why inclusion is so important and what it can do for students with disabilities. Really for everybody, right? Really, it's important for everybody. But what the benefit of being included gives students with disabilities is better outcomes when they are adults. So that's why it's so critical for us. And when I say better outcomes, I mean better academic progress, better independent skills, better independent living skills, better communication skills, just a better life long term. And what is so exciting about it is that, I mean, there are many ways to do it well, and I think that there are many ways that this district does it well. They're very flexible with a lot of different options for children and students with disabilities. But this is all supported by research. 40 years of research shows this very conclusively, and the benefit of that is even students without disabilities get better grades, get better scores, get better outcomes when included with the whole of their community. And again, that goes for everything, you know, ethnicity, race, gender. It's just such an important part of a whole life experience. So that helped me be committed to this vision. And in this presentation, I relayed some of the data. Students with disabilities, when they're educated in separate classrooms, get on the order of 20% less instructional time than students otherwise with disabilities who are in a general education classroom. And the success of students with disabilities in general education is not dependent on anything like IQ, race, socioeconomic status, parental involvement even. The success is more contingent upon the support of the district and the administration. So that's why it's so critical to partner with families and with the community and with administration to make this as successful as possible. And so in this presentation, I laid out some of the statistics and some of the reasons why it's so important for adults with disabilities. Eventually, we all become adults. And then there were some specific reasons or some specific ways to make that happen within the classroom, within the school, within the district and community. And so there are certain policies, certain practices that can help that.
Yeah. What are some steps that you think the district can take to improve, whether it's the communication we have with our parents, or with students with disabilities, or our overall operation? What are some things that the district could change to better serve, I guess?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's a great question. I think that one of the biggest things that maybe we can change is, I don't know, maybe transparency is the word for it, but I do feel like there are many times, especially when we were kind of new and going through the difficult part, that parents, us specifically, but other parents have experienced, we're told just no. And it feels like the answer can be no a lot. And even understanding the why can be helpful, or like being open about what our vision and I think that being open about what our vision is not always aligned with what the school's goals are, and that's nobody's fault. Everybody is in this to try to help our children. Like there's nobody that goes into special education because they don't want to help students with disability, right? So we all want the same goal. It's just sometimes we vary on the way to get there. And so, the sooner we can we can get aligned on how to get there, I think the better. And then I think a good way to do that is just that true listening and partnership. And I have that right now. We have a great relationship, and my son is making just so much excellent progress right now. But just that kind of acknowledgement that the parents' goals might be different than the district schools, because some parents might have a focus on safety. Some parents might have a focus on inclusion. Some parents might have a focus on the student's social life, and kind of being okay and tailoring that individual education plan to that individual would, I think, go a long way in doing that.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. We have time for one last question. Seems to be like you and your family are in a really great spot with where you are with your children. What advice would you give to families who are maybe just starting out, or who may be having some trouble kind of getting getting to where you are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the best advice I can give, it's not going to look too different than the advice I would give the parents of a typical kid, is be involved and collaborate, like as like that partnership. The sooner you can develop that real partnership, the better. And I think that you can get there by being very open about what your goals are as a parent. And then that alignment will kind of happen naturally. And then, there are resources that we can use to help. Like every school has a liaison that can help us. And every school, like the teachers are the experts. And so kind of getting the paperwork out of the way so the teachers can focus on education, which is what everybody wants in general, is critical in getting to that place. But yeah, for sure. I would say my biggest advice is to be involved and advocate. And you might have to advocate a little more than you would for a typical kid, but yeah, you'd probably be just as involved with your other kids as your kids with special needs.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sean, so much for being here. I am so very appreciative to know you and to work with you on the different committees, and to be able to call on you to offer your perspective and your input to families, your experiences. We appreciate you sharing them. The district will continue to work to improve communication and outreach to families of students with disabilities. Under new leadership and direction, the Special Education Department and Communication and Outreach Division will continue to collaborate to ensure the voices of our families and our special education population are heard and acknowledged. Thank you to my guests, and thank you to the audience for joining us this month for Diversity Matters. If you have any questions, or if you have a story idea for a future edition of Diversity Matters, please contact our Communications and Outreach Division at 910-254-4319. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next month with an all-new Diversity Matters.